Welcome to Behind the Lash Chair. I'm your host, Alexis Weisenburger, founder and owner of AW Lashes. My goal is to help you as a lash artist grow with tips and tricks on lashing, becoming an entrepreneur, marketing, and so much more. This is an amazing place to find free resources and connect with lash artists all around the world. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. Today we have a special guest with us. It's Mo. You guys may know her from all of the Lash Bashes. She's the genius behind it. Mo, please say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we got to finally do this.
I know. Please tell people where they can follow you and find out more about Lash Bashes that may be coming to their areas really quick while we get started.
For sure. So the Lash Bash Instagram account is Lash Bash Official. And then my personal lash account is Lash Luva, Luva. And then my salon account is Lash Out TX. And I am planning, oh my goodness, I have so many Lash Bashes coming up that I'm like, where do I even begin? The next one will be, I'm doing a collaboration with a few big brands, Revelation, Borboleta, and Elibana for a Laguna Beach Lash Social. That will be on June 11th. Tickets are almost sold out for that one. And then the next one after that will be July 8th in Hawaii, which I am so excited about.
I know. I'm like, oh, please, I wish. No, just kidding.
I know, like my whole family jumped on board and they're like, we're all coming with you for this one.
I'll bet. They're like, we're going to take one for the team and come with you on this.
Yes, totally. They're like, we'll come. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's going to be, it's kind of coming full circle because I actually get to take my family to Hawaii with me for this one. So it's a big blessing. And tickets are on sale for that one now. And then there is one more planned and I haven't finalized that one, but we're thinking October. So I will announce that one later.
Perfect. And everybody stay tuned because Mo and I do have a big announcement at the end of our podcast. Yeah, I know, right? So everybody stay tuned, listen through to the very end. But we are actually going to talk today about building your network of lash artists and why that's important. And that's why I definitely wanted Mo to come on today and talk with us. And to get started, Mo, I'd just love you to share your story, like how you got into lashing and then how that evolved into these lash socials.
Yeah, of course. So I actually started lashing 2010 is when I took my first training, and my background is hair salons. I don't do hair. I didn't go to cosmetology school. I fell into the beauty industry in college. I was going to college for my bachelor's and fell into a receptionist job at a hair salon. And within 6 months, I was essentially running the place. Business is kind of just in me. That's who I am. Like as a little girl, I remember getting, and this is going way back, my mom's ironing board and like putting out papers and acting like I was running a business all the time. I was literally just remembering this the other day, but the business side of things is who I am at my core. And I left the hair salon, like I had opened a few salons with friends. And then at the very last one I was at, lashes started being talked about in our area. And we tried convincing our hairdressers to go. And they looked at us like we were crazy. And my friend said, well, what? You just go and take the class. It can't be that hard. And then you can come back and teach your hairstylist.
Don't you love that approach on that?
That hard. Hard. I literally took, I think it was like 7 hours. That's it, which is scary to me when I think about it now. It was a 7 hour, maybe 8 hour class. And my friend and I went together. And I remember because that day, like we did a little bit of theory and then it was like, okay, let's practice on each other. And I remember laying down going, I don't want her touching my eyes. She just learned as much as I did. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Please point sharp tweezers and have adhesive by my eyes. That's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, right.
It's like, are you kidding me? Oh, it was a mess. I No, my eyes were shaking. I was fidgeting. And she was like, Mo, just lay still. And I'm like, no, I just can't. So she did not get good practice on me. And then we came back to the salon and I was like, okay, so this is not as easy as everybody thinks, but does anybody want to learn it? They shot me down again. And something in me changed. I had always, like I said, I had always been the business person running the salon, managing, never the service provider. I never, way TMI, but I never wanted to touch people. My mom would always be like, just go to cosmetology school and learn hair. And I was like, ew, I don't want to touch people's hair. What are you thinking? And after I learned lashes, something changed in me. And I was like, you know what? This was really hard, but I just, something in me can't let it beat me. I don't know why. I don't know what changed, but after those 7 to 8 hours, I was like, I'm going to actually try this and see if I like it. And of course, you know, at the beginning of learning lashes, excuse me, we all are hard on ourselves. We want to throw the tweezers across the room. It's one of the hardest things we've ever done. People don't realize that until they try it. And I could have easily walked away, but I kept feeling like, no, you're not going to let lashes defeat you. As weird as that sounds. So I started doing it more. I was running the salon that I was at. I was literally taking clients at 6, 8, 10 o'clock at night because during the day I was running the salon, and I started falling in love with doing lashes. But most importantly, I fell in love with the one-on-one connections that I got with clients. Like, I had always been at the front of the salon. Everybody knew who I was. We always had conversations. I mean, I got to know a lot of people that way, but I never had that intimate one-on-one with clients that they can share their life with you, and you can do the same if you are open to that or if they are open to that. And I really, really fell in love with that aspect of it. And it got so much that I was at the salon that I was at doing lashes plus running the salon for 2 years. And it was essentially killing me. I was worn out. I was done. I got to a point where I was like, I'm done managing people. I just want to do lashes. Like, I fell in love with it that much that I was willing to walk away from the business side of things to just do lashes because I fell in love with it. So left the salon that I was part of and went on my own, and I was in heaven. I rented a little studio and it was just me by myself, and I was working as much as I wanted when I wanted. Of course, it was literally like 15 hours a day. I was newly married, didn't have kids, so I had the time on my hands, and I was like, I know obviously from being in the hair industry, I know what it takes to build a clientele.
Yeah.
So I was willing to do that. And that's a lot. People don't understand that either. Like, you have to be willing. You can't start a new career in the beauty industry and say, okay, I'm going to work 8 a.m. to 3. There you go. Figure it out. It doesn't work that way. You have to be available. And I made myself available. And within 3 months, I was booked solid 7 days a week.
Oh, man.
I got to a point. Yeah, I was overdoing it. And that,
even though you were
I
new,
tell people like,
I really don't want to see you. Sorry. Bye. No, just kidding.
Well, the good thing was he's an ex-chef. So he was working 80 to 100 hours a week.
Oh, so you're both.
Yes, we were both very much go, go, go. So I was like, well, if I'm going to be at home alone, I'll just go make money at the salon.
Yeah.
And it worked. Within 3 months, like I said, I was booked solid. And I got a phone call from a new client, and this is what changed everything. I told her, I said, I have a 3-month waiting period. I'll put you on my list. And she yelled at me. She went in hard on me. She threatened to leave me reviews everywhere. She just was like, what kind of business are you running where it takes 3 months to get in with you? This is ridiculous. And I was, of course,
supply and demand.
Knew on my own.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's just one of me. And she's like, I don't care. You need to figure it out. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I've never had somebody yell at me because I was busy.
Yeah.
Every once in a blue moon, this is off topic, but every once in a blue moon, you'll get those clients who you say, hey, we have a 2-week waiting period or whatever. And they'll say, good for you. Those are the people you want on your books. those are the shining light.
Yeah, quite frankly, it sounds like that woman would not have been your ideal client. She would have been very high demand. But here's the funny thing, you know, she was threatening to leave you those negative reviews everywhere. And in my mind, I'm thinking, what's she going to say? I called her and she said she couldn't get me in for 3 months.
Yep.
Okay. So then you respond to that and you say, sorry, that is my current waiting period. I service existing clients first. Somebody reads a negative review, it's not going to be a negative review. They're going to be like, whoa, she's amazing.
Yes. Yes. And obviously, I mean, I think I was good at what I was doing to be that booked.
Absolutely.
But after that, I sulked and cried and was like, I can't believe this lady yelled at me. What do I do? My business is going to fail because she's going to leave me a review. I was, you know, new to being on my own as a service provider. And a friend said, I think it's time you expand. And I looked at him and I was like, you're funny. Not happening. I hung that code up a long time ago. I am not managing people again because that's hard as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think what sometimes, and sorry, we keep taking deviations from your story and we'll get back to it, but sometimes I think people think, oh, I'm just going to expand and it's going to be so great and I'll have lots of booth renters or commission. And people have to understand that then you have to take more of the role. I mean, yes, being a business owner, you do that as a sole proprietor, but when you take on a bigger responsibility and you have more space, your expenses every month are a lot higher. And that means you have to guarantee that you're going to fill those spaces and you're going to have to deal with personality issues and personality conflicts and the drama that comes along with that and all of those ups and downs, people not making their rent. How are you going to deal with that? People, you know, how are you going to keep your salon full if they're commission? So it's a big step and it's a big undertaking. And I know you understood that with your previous experience managing and running a salon.
Yes. It's a lot. It's a lot mentally and emotionally on somebody to run a place and have employees. I don't know why, but you know, the Field of Dreams movie where they're like, if you build it, they will come. I'm like, that's not true, people. It's not that simple. It is not. Can we not live in this mentality anymore? Like, it doesn't happen that way. It's hard to find good lash artists. It's hard to find good employees. It's hard to find team players. Like, it doesn't just come to you. And it takes lots of work on your part. It's not just hire them and let them go. No, a whole other ballpark that you have to go into of, okay, this is how we do it here. This is how our customer service is. I mean, it's a lot, and people think salon ownership is so easy, and maybe because people are making it look easy, but it's not easy.
Absolutely, because then it's your name on the door. So if a lash
100%.
artist gives, you know, say there's an issue, you're liable. Potentially, you know, even if they are a booth renter and they're technically renting the space, it's still your name and it's still your reputation. And so it's a lot. And you as the owner have a very high level of requirements of yourself and everything else. But someone you hire is not going to have that same ethic necessarily.
Not at all.
And so it's really hard and it's really tricky. And sometimes, like you said, it's really hard to find other good lash artists. So then you can either rent to like subpar, but again, your name's on the door, or you don't have that income coming in and you have to be able to take that. And as the owner, you're the last one to get paid.
100%. Like, if you're a good salon owner or an honest salon owner, you feed your employees first before you feed yourself. That's always been my rule of thumb. That I'm also a big person who believes in what you make from the salon goes back into the salon. So there have been times where I don't pay myself. I mean, honestly, and let's be real, I rarely pay myself because I'm a firm believer of what the salon makes goes back into the salon. Like, I literally just had this conversation with my husband the other day, and way TMI and too transparent, but he was like, why don't you have money going into our bank account every 2 weeks like I do?
You're like, well,
and I was like, let's see, we've been married for 12 years, 13. when did you just figure this out? Because we've talked about it before and you just now remember or thought about it, like the
Right.
salon money goes back to the salon. I've never paid what are you talking about? So it was just funny because he's like, you own a salon and you don't pay yourself. And again, where have you been for 12 years that you don't remember this? But
Absolutely.
that's always been who I am at my core. I was not unfortunately, this is a blessing in disguise. The very first salon I worked at, the first hair salon, I watched the owner do everything you don't do in business. That is how I learned what to do. I watched her steal from herself. I watched her move money here and there. I mean, I watched her do everything wrong
Oh man.
to learn what to do right.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I had a grudge against her because I was like, man, this woman, and she took advantage of me in other ways that I won't get into, but just on a personal level of taking advantage of me, doing things for her personal life, things like that. But now that I'm older and I can look back, I held a grudge against her for so long, but I wouldn't know how to run a salon the right way had I not watched her do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
So it all comes full circle.
Exactly. I mean, you know, Alexis and I feel the same way. We've had experience with a lot of other brands and working with them. And and that's actually how we built AW. And I'll admit, like going back to where you said, you know, I don't pay myself. That's how we feel right now. You know, we take care of our employees first. We replenish products. We create new products, all of those types of things. And being a small business, and AW Lash has been around for about 2.5 years now. And so I'll admit, very seldom do we get to take anything home. Being a small business owner means that you sacrifice and you do pay yourself last and you do reinvest in business until you hit a certain point, and then you get to actually, you know, reap some of those benefits. But definitely you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to be paid for a while. And that's okay, but people need to understand and realize that as well, that when you're starting a salon or a small business or those types of things, you have to be okay sacrificing and be able to have the financing and the capital to be able to do that. You know, so anyway, okay, we're totally getting off topic, but okay, now we're going back. I know, right? It's still good information. Okay, so now and you're to this point where you're like, okay, somebody, your friends, you need to expand.
In salon ownership, you have to weigh the good with the bad. Like people are like, oh, well, you own a salon, so you're rich. I'm like, no, I'm not rich. Not by any means am I rich. But you know what I am rich with? My time. After I hit 10 years with my salon last year, we hit the 10-year mark. And this past year has been the first year that I have been able to be away from my salon as much as I have been away. So I'm rich in my time because I get to go to all of my kids' events at school. I get to do Lash Bash now, but it took 10 years for me to be able to have that. And on top of that, I'm still not getting paid what I should. So you have to weigh it out. Is it worth it or not? I am definitely not rich. I definitely don't make more than my girls make, but I do get to be available for them. I do get to be available for my kid, my family, and now Lash Bash.
Exactly. And that's truly what owning your own business, no matter what industry you're in, but specifically in the beauty industry, like having your own salon suite, having your own salon, when you are the owner, you do get to. And going back to what you said, you know, after you've built your clientele, after you've built your business, once you get to that point, the true beauty of this industry is that you get to pick when you work. So, and a lot of things obviously drive that. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, how much money you need to bring in, and, you know, to cover your expenses and those types of things. But it's truly in your hands. And that's where the benefits come into play. But that's not for everybody. So absolutely.
And people need to know that, like, if you're doing it just for the money, that's not like, just stay a lash artist and make your money. Like you have to weigh it. Like if you're doing it just for the money, and they literally just talked about this at Lash Boss Summit, like if you're trying to go to that next step for money, then you're not doing it for the right reasons, and the money may not be there.
Exactly. Quite frankly, you may make more being a booth renter in someone else's
Mhm.
salon where they're dealing with all of that headache. And all you have to do is keep your own personal business license and build your own clientele.
Mhm. Mhm.
You'll
And
probably
what's worked for my girls is literally I build their clientele. They essentially
exactly,
don't have to do any of the business side and they get to leave work at work.
exactly. Because
Me, that's one thing I would trade with them. I don't know what it's like to not take work on vacation home
right,
to my kids' game. I don't know what it's like to not have this phone connected to my hip at all times. For years, I don't know what that's like, but they literally get to go home and leave their phone and not have to check it. And I'm like, that sounds beautiful. What is that like?
right. And but it is choices. And I was
Yes.
laughing because as you said that about your phone being connected. My husband for
Hmm.
Christmas, I finally broke down and he gave me an Apple Watch for Christmas. I don't know whether this is a blessing or a curse because now it's really attached to me.
Oh, yes. You're in trouble.
I know,
I had
right?
one and I had to take it off.
Uh, well, I love it for like exercise purposes, and it makes me
Yes.
like pay more attention to move throughout the day. It's
Yes.
really good because
Yes.
usually I'll work out in the morning and then I'll sit in front of my computer all day and I don't
Hmm.
move very much, and so it's good for those reasons, but it's also bad because it is literally attached to me all the time. And
All the time.
and so it does not help me have balance. Let's just put it that way. I do find myself not having as much balance with it on my wrist. But okay. So going back, you have a friend that says, I think you need to expand. What
Yes.
happens?
Time to expand. I was fighting it the whole way. My husband jumped on board and was like, yes, they're right. It is time for you to expand. And I'm like, I just got here. It's only been 3 months.
Don't
Stop
you just
talking
love
crazy.
husbands? Don't you love
And
husbands?
my,
They're so good at
yeah, my
pushing.
husband literally drove me around our city and was like, you're going to look at places. And I was like, but, like I really did fight it the whole way. And I'm that person who will sit on the ledge for days, months, hours before I decide to jump into that pool. And my husband's like, yeehaw, let's go. He will jump at everything. And I'm that person who sits and thinks everything through. But he was a big force in this and pushing me. He was like, no, this is who you are. He just truly believed in me. And it wasn't natural in my progression because I already knew how to manage people. I knew how to do lashes. I knew how to train people. So it was just a natural progression. And within, I want to say like, I don't remember how long it was, but I was only at that one little studio for a year because I had to give a year's
Notice.
what my contract was for a year. And so we found the perfect place. I always said I wanted a warm, fuzzy place, like a house, like an old house,
Uh-huh.
and like to go in and fix it up. And we actually found a house inside of the park that we got married in.
Oh, I love
I
that.
know. It was so cute. And it was like just meant to be. And the landlord was like, I have been interviewing people for the past 2 years, and something about you tells me to do this. Like he had not filled the house because he hadn't found the right fit for him or whatever.
Mhm.
But before I even opened, I had been, or before I even said I was expanding for sure, I had just been talking to people and, like I know a lot of hairdressers. I'm in Salon Suite. So I talked to people. And before I even signed the lease to expand, I had 4 or 5 girls already wanting to work for me. I didn't have to interview. I didn't have to do anything along those lines at the beginning. So it was like truly just all meant to be. Everything fell into place. That was a moment. If you build it, they will come. But that was because of my networking and my connections and my socialization with all my people.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yes. And so, I mean, I guess the rest was history, but I opened up, that salon ended up turning into a full service salon, which was not my plan. I was like, I want to be the first lash studio in my little town of Friendswood. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the house that I rented was so big. It was 32 or 3,600 square feet
That is a
up and
big
downstairs.
That's a big
Huge
one.
take on. Um, and because I had been in the beauty industry for so long, I knew a lot of hairdressers, I knew makeup artists, I knew estheticians, I knew all these people. And they're like, we're looking for a place. We should do, like like I said, it was just natural progression. It turned into so much more than just a lash salon. And so we were the first lash salon, but then I rented space to hairdresser, to esthetician. And I remember telling my husband, like, this wasn't my plan. Like, this wasn't my goal. I am still the first lash studio, but now I'm a full salon. And he was like, babe, God gave you more than you asked for, and you're complaining.
Right?
And I was like, oh, I did not see that. He was like, essentially, you have renters who will pay your rent.
Exactly.
So you're balancing things out so you're not losing money right off the bat, and I never until he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. How selfish of me, thinking, well, I wanted this, but you gave me more. Wow. Okay.
How dare. Yeah.
How dare you give me more than I wanted? And I really loved that place. It truly was like a blessing in my life. And unfortunately, we encountered Hurricane Harvey down here in Houston, and essentially my salon had to be demolished after the hurricane. It took on 5 feet of water.
Oh,
it was an old house. Like I said, it was built in the 70s. And so it had to be demolished. So, on top of that, I lost my home as well. And I had a 5-month-old who just came home from the hospital sick.
Oh my heavens.
So a lot of devastation. And it was kind of a point where I had to figure out, like, what comes first? Do I find a house for my family, or do I find a salon for my girls? And I was literally the only person who lost her home, her vehicles, took on, like nobody else was affected by the hurricane other than like maybe the salon, maybe a few tools or something along those lines. So I had to have like a really hard talk with myself and with God and be like, okay, what comes first? Because I had people depending on me who needed a livelihood to make money, who I've supported for 5 years. And then I had my husband and my child who were living in a church member's home because we have no home. And I literally just kind of, was like, okay, God, you let me know what I'm doing. If I'm reopening, you tell me. But right now, I have a sick baby. I need a place over my head. So I'm going to focus on that. And people literally in the community just kept reaching out to me. And they're like, hey, I have a room over here. Hey, I have a room over here. Come check it out. And I was going and seeing these places just to see, like, would we be able, is it quiet enough for a lash artist? So in that time, it took me a month to reopen. So all of my girls had left but one, because they had to make a livelihood. And I totally understood that. I was like, I can't fault you for having to find a place to work.
Absolutely.
Especially when you didn't lose anything and you're not stuck, So I actually had a client who reached out to me, and she owned a med spa literally within walking distance of my studio. And she said, hey, we have a room. She had also flooded as well at her home and at her studio. But a month later, they were back up and running. And she's like, we have a room. Can we help you out? And it just worked out perfect that I was like, well, this is literally within walking distance of where we're from. I have one girl left. So let's see if this is going to work. And back to not knowing if it was going to work out, literally 2 days after the hurricane, the salon phone was ringing, and I had a lady calling, and she was like, hey, I want to come in and get my lashes done right now.
You're like,
and I was like, ma'am, we're underwater still. And she was like, oh, like she had no clue. And she lived just the city over, so she knows it happened.
Yeah.
But she was like, dang it, I don't have any scuba gear to get to you, but I'm praying for you. And I was like, okay, God, you're still sending clients. Like, this is crazy. So literally I didn't know if I was going to reopen. I didn't know if we would be able to rebuild. And literally here we are 5 years later, and I have 5 lash artists, and they're all booked.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, the ups and downs of being a business owner. So,
oh my goodness, you don't know what's coming.
Right?
You never know.
who knows, all sorts of natural
Mhm,
disasters and oh man,
mhm.
anything and everything that could potentially happen. So what
Yes.
led you to start the Lash Bashes? Like, how did the first one come about? How did it become something that now you're doing on a regular basis? How did this evolve from being a salon owner and a lash artist to then having these amazing social networking events? How did that happen?
So what's funny is when I started lashes, there was nobody else doing lashes in our area. And I think there was another lady who did it out of her home, but she was kind of like secretive about it. And I'm sure it's because she was doing it out of her home.
Absolutely.
But I tried reaching out to her numerous times and she would not give me the time of the day. I was a new artist. I had questions. I had nobody to talk lashes with. And I was like, I just need somebody to talk
Right.
with about this stuff. My husband didn't get it. He might get it now, but then he didn't
Right.
get it. And I was like, hairdressers that I worked with didn't get it. There was nobody to communicate with. I remember I got adhesive on my favorite dress one day. And I was like, crap, how do I get this out? And
Yeah,
I contacted the company and they were like, you don't.
exactly.
Adhesive
Like,
doesn't come out of your clothes. And I was
yeah,
like, wait, nobody told me this. I mean, something as simple as that, I had no answers for.
yeah.
I had retention problems like crazy. Found out later, like 6 months later, that my adhesive was expired. They gave it to me expired. Nobody told me this. So I had been doing full sets for 6 months for free over and over and over again. Because at that issue, that was my glue. Now we know it's not the glue's fault, but at that point, my glue was expired and it was in the dark ages, shall we say.
Oh, yeah.
And so I
It was
didn't
a little
have
different.
anybody to reach out to. And I had so much in my head that I was like, I just need a lash friend. I was so desperate. Fast forward to today, I always had this idea of like, I want to just throw a party for lash artists, like in our area and build the local community. Because why aren't we talking to the people next door to us? And
Absolutely.
prime example, a friend, actually, she wasn't a friend, a lash artist moved within a mile of my salon to open her own lash salon.
Mm-hmm.
And I slid into her DMs and I was like, welcome to Friendswood. Let's go to lunch. I didn't look at her as competition. I didn't. There are tons of lash artists in my area and I have slid into their DMs. I don't care. Like there are enough eyeballs to go around.
Absolutely.
And if I can have a lash friend out of it rather than a competitor out of it, I'll take the lash friend any day.
Absolutely. Because
So,
frankly, there is an ideal client and an ideal lash artist for everyone. And what's great for
mhm,
someone is not great for another person. So it's not competition.
exactly. And having that person next to you, walking alongside you, having their information just is so valuable and will just elevate you to another level because you're both experiencing the same things, but how she handles it or how he handles it may be different than the way you handle it. Their way may be worse and you can help them, or their way may be better and they can help you.
For example, what happens if you are having issues with your adhesive? You gave that example
Mm-hmm.
that you were using expired adhesive, but maybe someone's just moved to the area and your humidity levels are different than another area and the adhesive they're using
Mm-hmm.
is very sensitive to humidity levels. So being
Oh,
able
yes.
to talk to someone and share your experience or even say it was kind of funny, and Mo, I shared this with you just before we started, but the girl
Yeah.
who does my lashes, she uses AW's Velocity adhesive and it just works for her. It is just
Yeah.
like it works for her. And she ran
Yes.
out and in fact she needed to increase her subscription order. She's just had a lot more clients recently and been, fitting
For
everybody
her.
and whatever. And so she ran out and she had a full set the next morning for someone who was getting their bridals done and she was freaking out, but because she knew
Yeah.
enough people in the local area and I'll admit she had a little bit of an in at the lash company. So we were
Mhm.
able to overnight her some too. But um
Awesome.
but she was able to call around and get some adhesive and help that client until a new order of the adhesive could come in. And,
Yes.
there are just times like that. Having a friend, having a mentor, having someone, we all go through those ups and downs, like where everything's working and it's great. And then times when we struggle, having someone that you can talk to and talk through those things and work it out, those lash besties, it's a big deal.
It's essential. I'm sorry. It's just essential in my opinion. And going back to what you said about your lash artist, I've had ex-employees reach out to me and go, Mo, I ran out of this solution, or I ran out of this lash, or I ran out of this certain thing I need. Can I come pay you? Can I, whatever. And I'm like, girl, just come get it. I've had my friend down the road run out of something. Hey, do you have any? I've ran out of things and I've reached out to, I've even had my old esthetician that worked for me at the house that flooded, who reached out to me and was like, oh my God, I ran out of lash lift solution. And she got onto the lash lift solution that I used because she saw me talking about it. She heard me talk. We compared notes on what we liked. Yep. And you don't know if you don't have these relationships. Like, she was strictly an esthetician where she did facials, lash lifts, and there was something else. But because we shared the lash lifts in common, we would talk about it. And she ended up switching her brand to what I was using. Same with adhesives in the back. I mean, back in the day when a friend was using a certain adhesive or she had tried something new, because there were only a few brands when we first started.
Yep.
And if she had something she liked or posted about it, I'd be like, okay, tell me more about this adhesive, or tell me more about these tweezers. Absolutely. This is how you get that value. Number one, the valuable information from friends. And number two, the secrets and tips that maybe you weren't thinking about.
It helps you become a better artist.
It does. To me, the tips and tricks are the bonus, but the relationship and the community is what just sets it apart. Knowing I have somebody who understands what I do, because yes, there are a million lash artists right now. We are still so small that we have a chance to make our industry different and better than any other beauty industry. Hairdressers look at each other as competition regardless. That's just how it is. That was what I started the beauty industry in, is like, literally I'd be running a salon and I'd say, oh, somebody's opening a salon 5 feet away from us. Let's go say hi. Oh my gosh, we don't talk to them. That's our competition. Right. We have a chance, because we're so small, to truly make this a tight-knit community where we love, we lift, we support each other. We do for the community rather just ourselves. And in return, we get those relationships back, and they're so fulfilling. Like, I guess because lashing isn't something that most people know. So it's good to have that friend in your back pocket that knows exactly what you're talking about when you're struggling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So going back to Lash Bash. So how did the first one come about?
So the first one came about, sorry, we did get off track.
That's okay. You know what? It's just that's all good.
So I actually was missing the community, and my friend who works down the road from me, we had lunch, the one that I slid into her DMs. We had lunch and we both were like, we want to throw like just a get together for lash artists. I wonder if anybody would show up. And we truly thought it's just going to be us two having some cocktails. And it ended up, we posted it and we only opened it up for 35 people because it was a small venue. We wanted to support local. It was right after COVID and the shutdown. And we thought, okay, let's start small. I knew somebody who owned a restaurant down the street and they were struggling. And I was like, okay, why don't we connect with them? Like, in these lash bashes, my goal, because it had happened right after COVID, was let's connect with people we know and help them too. So it doesn't have to be a lash artist. Like I said, it was a restaurant who was down the street from me who was struggling, and she was a client. And I was like, hey, we want to do this here. Let's do, we didn't realize that our clients are huge connections to the outside world of lashes.
Absolutely.
And so we connected with this restaurant and we had it there, and we didn't charge for this one because we truly did not think anybody would show up. And within 12 hours, our RSVP list was full.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like, we did not know it was going to go like that. We just thought a few people would come. So then the RSVP list was full within 12 hours. And we were like, okay, we're full, but we'll see if they really show since it's free.
Right.
Everybody showed, but maybe one because she was sick and she had COVID. So you know how that was at that when it first came about. We were lucky enough because we both had connections in the industry, and I've been in the industry for so long that I've known a lot of the big brands because of being in the industry. Like I've known them and followed them since they started, which was around when I started. And I reached out to those few celebrity lash brands and artists and was like, hey, you want to come to a party?
Yeah, right.
Didn't think they would say yes. They jumped on board and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I don't have to speak. I get to actually be with my people and be one of you guys. I was like, yeah, no, don't do a speech. I want you to come have fun too. That's part of it. And it literally was like, it all went by so flawlessly and so perfectly that we were just like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. I want more. And I had a girl literally like 2 days later reach out to me and was like, how do I get you to come to Utah and do that?
Oh, I love
I was
it.
like, what? I actually knew somebody in Utah who was Lindy from EBL. And I was like, I didn't even think about taking this on the road. Do people really want this? And artists kept sliding into my DMs saying, we need this here. Bring this here. Can you come do this here? Please come do this here. And again, I didn't know this would turn into a career. It just blew up more than I thought it would. And it tells me how much lash artists are craving those connections. And you and I both know a lot of lash artists are solo lash artists, so they work by themselves. So they don't get a community whatsoever. And I think it's beautiful that this community or these people are actually craving those connections, because that's a beautiful thing that and maybe it had to do with COVID and shutting down as well, but we're actually craving those connections with specific like-minded people in our industry.
Absolutely. It just makes all the difference. Like you said, I mean, I think everyone realized how isolated we were during COVID. I mean, obviously that was increased 10 times because you had to be literally isolated. But I think what it also did was opened people up to the fact that there is that need for the human connection, not just social media, not just, do you know what I mean? All of those types of things, but actually connecting and being able to understand and share burdens and truly become a community and help each other succeed. That support system that is created by networking with people in your local area that are in your same industry, and even, going to conferences and things like that, where you get to network with people on a larger scale basis as well. It truly can help you change your career and shape your career for the better. There are just so many benefits. Yes, we've kind of talked about some in this call throughout while we've been talking, whether it's you decide to go out on your own and now you have a huge network to pull from for people to become booth renters or work with you in a salon, people you know and trust because you've built that relationship with them. As we mentioned, it's really hard to get good people, but if you have a really strong network, your chances of getting good people in your salon are much higher and much better. Or whether it's troubleshooting, or whether it is borrowing the proverbial cup of sugar, or a tray of lashes when things happen. But or having retention issues or having problems, and just being able to talk to someone who knows and understands. Like our partners, obviously, they play, and our families play a huge role and support system for us. But there is something different when you can talk to someone who knows exactly what you're going through. Mo, I think, you talked about that perfectly. Someone who really, really understands, someone who understands how bad your back hurts after you've been
Mm,
lashing 8 to 10 hours.
yes.
With someone who understands what it's like to build a clientele and
Mm-hmm.
not take lunch breaks or even have time to pee. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're just
Yes. All of it.
that your family and close friends don't understand, but other lash
No.
artists will. And so there are so many reasons to build that support system. And so I so love that you have created such a beautiful and great event that allows people to make those connections, allows people to, because as you said as well, most lash artists work by themselves. If you're a booth renter, sure, maybe you work around other people, but most times, because lash artists, and you need to have a little bit more of a quiet environment. And so, a lot of times you're kind of segmented into your own little space and things like that. And then, or you work on your own in like a salon suite, or even I know there are still a lot of lash artists that have a dedicated space in their house and work from their homes. And so
Yes.
when you're so isolated, which tends to happen a lot with this profession, it is hard to meet those people. And yes, you may follow a million lash artists on social media, and they may help you address some of your issues, and you may get tips and tricks from them, but there's something different about
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone and building that relationship in real life.
Yes. Yes. It's a whirlwind of a difference in what having somebody in your corner who understands you in and out. I mean, like you just said, they understand your back pain. They understand not eating. Goes back to me simply posting. I found out I got my migraines from lashing because
Oh,
of how I'm holding my neck. And
yeah.
now, just by me posting that, I have a little community on Instagram of people who also suffer from migraines from lashing, and they understand it. And we get to talk about, hey, what have you tried? What works for you? Are you doing new stretches? Oh, well, you know what? Me personally, I get Botox for my migraines because no other medicines worked for me. What can I do to help? Like, it's beautiful that I get to have these connections on Instagram, and then it's 10 times more beautiful when I get to hug them in person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to because we're running low on time, so I just want to take a minute. We mentioned that we had a special surprise, and so I wanted to tell everyone with Mo here, we are so excited to announce that in 2024 we will be having a Lash Bash come to Colorado. And we are so excited. AW Lashes is so excited to be hosting Lash Bash, and we're excited to post more information about that and let you guys register and come and help us to build our community in Colorado as well.
Yes, I'm so excited. So excited.
I know it's not quite Hawaii, Mo, but
But I don't know. People keep telling me Colorado is pretty magical. So I'm like, I'm really excited.
absolutely. We are so excited. And so we will be releasing more details and an exact date as that gets finalized. And Alexis and I are so excited to be able to host that and to be able to network with all of you and get to know all of you better and meet you face to face. So, Mo, any last words you'd like to share with everyone before we wind up here?
Yeah, honestly, I just want to touch on the people who are shy and maybe socially awkward, because honestly, some of them go into this career because they are socially awkward and they like the one-on-one with their clients. And I get it. I know everybody thinks I'm an extrovert, but I am half extrovert, half introvert. If it's not my industry and if it's not what I know, I'm very much an introvert. So I know in the lash industry, I look like an extrovert because I am, but I people, get out of your shells. I know people are scared to make these like jumps to come to these events by themselves. So if you're too scared to even come to an event by yourself, start sliding into people's DMs and making those connections there. Like, that's how it all began for me, was sliding into people's DMs. I am not ashamed of it. I will slide into anybody's DMs and be like, I love what you're doing. Hey, I love that shirt. Hey, you're killing it. Hey, I've been watching you. I don't care. I mean, what is it? What's the worst they can do? Not reply? But the other thing about Lash Bash is it's the perfect lash event to get your feet wet and to try out for your first lash event. I've been told by so many people, even big people in the industry will be like, your Lash Bash was my first lash event. And I'm like, wait, what? You haven't gone to a lash event, a conference, anything? And they're like, no, I wanted to try small with a Lash Bash. So it really is the perfect event to get your feet wet because you're not expected to like retain any information. You're not expected to sit for hours and just absorb information. And you get to just make these personal connections kind of in a more intimate environment where everybody's chill, laid back. They are there to socialize as well. So my biggest thing is people will message me and be like, I really want to come, but I don't want to come alone. And I've even had one girl who messaged me, she bought a ticket and she messaged me after the event. She never showed up and she was like, I had a panic attack driving up there because I was scared.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, like that breaks my heart.
right.
I wish she had just messaged me or DM'd me because she didn't have my personal number and said like, hey, I'm on the side of the road and I'm really nervous. Because I checked it, I would have said, I'll meet you at the front door. You won't be alone. Please, like that. You have friends, and even if you come to a Lash Bash alone, you are not leaving alone because you are going to make so many friends.
Absolutely. Well, and I would say a good majority of people actually attend these events and go alone.
They do. That's what's crazy. But there's still those few people who are like, nope, 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 nope. And I'm really proud of the people who do come alone because I will say my first lash event that I ever went to, I went to alone. I left my husband at home because I knew if I took him with me, I wouldn't network or socialize like I would without him.
Yeah.
Yes, he would be my crutch. We would sit there and then other lash artists or men may not approach me because he's sitting with me. It's less approachable when you're in a couple. And I made so many connections at that event by going by myself because it forced me to get out there and talk. And was I very social at that first event? Absolutely not. It was literally right after Hurricane Harvey. I lost my home. I lost my salon. My son was sick, but I was like, I need to just be with my people, even if I don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
I went to this event. I came back and my husband was like, you have a pep in your step. And I was like, I feel so refreshed just by hearing the conversations. Even if I didn't get to talk to everybody at this event, the conversations were just so fulfilling because they knew my language.
Yep.
So yeah, just get out of your shell, put yourself out there. If you don't put yourself out there, and it's totally fine if you want to stay a lash artist and you're fine where you're at and you don't want to further your career, but you never know what coming to these events can do for your career. You may hook up with someone who's in a completely different avenue with you and it sparks your interest and they're like, yeah, come do this with me. And you find a whole nother avenue of your career that you never knew existed because you went and talked to people.
Absolutely. And if it's not a Lash Bash, which like Mo was saying, it's a great first experience because they tend to be small, usually about 50 artists. So it's a small, but go to something, if a local salon is hosting something or doing a little education or doing, anything, get out there.
Lash class.
Yep, exactly. Build your network. That's what I want to stress the most today is build your network in your community specifically and on a larger scale, obviously the country, those types of things, but build your community. You won't regret it no matter what.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, Mo, share your contact information one more time so people know where to find you and can follow you and learn more about Lash Bash events that might be coming to their area.
Okay, so again, my Lash Bash Instagram is Lash Bash Official. My personal lash account is Lash Luva. Sorry, I even said it wrong. LUVA. People always get that one tongue twisted, and it was something I created 13 years ago, so I can't change it. And then my salon account is Lash Out TX. And yeah, and I'll be speaking at a few virtual conferences, Lash conferences this summer. I'll be speaking at an In Live one in August. So yeah, I'll be around.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today and talk with us about the importance of networking. It has been so great to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I love talking about it because I love being able to like stress the importance of it and how much it has changed my life just in general. I get to throw the parties, but it's truly changed my life as well.
I love that. And what a great note to end on. Thanks, everyone.